So this is, for those of you guys that have been with us for a while, this is the SLAM class, selling. It's which we're calling it SLAM because it's the seller / listing agent mastery. Again, I'm only going to do, I'm dividing this into 2 parts. So this is going to be part 1 of the process, and then the rest, I'll schedule a secondary class, and that will eventually result in you being a listing agent master. That's the goal. So before we start today, I want to talk a little bit about who I am. Most of you guys know me pretty well, but as you may or may not know, I've overseen thousands of listings. I actually did the numbers yesterday, and it's over 3,500 listings in my career since 2005. The purpose of our meeting today is to share what I've learned with you and to help each of you guys list and sell more homes. A lot of you are newer in the industry. And so again, today's class will be a big focus on how you can set yourself up to speak with more sellers and have more listing presentations and put yourself in front of the right people so that you can get more listings. So, like I said, the goals of this course, I highlighted the 2 things that we're going to talk about today, which is how you can speak to sellers, how you can get more listing presentations and appointments set up, how you can answer questions, take it from the casual conversation to closing the deal, and then how you can deliver a killing listing presentation. The second part of the course will be a focus, the second class that I schedule will be more about selling the actual listing, keeping your sellers informed, asking for referrals, and farming the area. This is a really important concept that I want everyone to understand, because I think that there's a misconception that listing presentations are easy or that they're always the same, and they're absolutely not. Listing a home is very much, it's either a science or an art. And so my recommendation to all of you guys is to start with either and then improve it as you go. It certainly does not happen overnight. The process, it takes years to perfect. But the important thing is that you guys understand that producing agents are both artists, but they're also scientists. Scientists meaning they have a process. They're not working randomly. And so I want to explain a little more about that. So first of all, science is defined as a systematically organized body of knowledge. And so the reason why I wanted to explain that to you is that we all should have a science and a system when it comes to how we approach sellers, how we list the home, how we sell the home. And the second part of it is that it's an art as well, right? So art being defined as an expression or an application of human creative skill and imagination. And again, I'm explaining that is because I need you guys to understand that it's going to change every time. It's going to constantly be evolving and changing. You're going to get better at it. So don't expect to be able to do this class and all of a sudden, you're perfect. It's not that. It's a process. The more you do it, the better you get. The more your art changes. But it's really a combination of both having a system, being a scientist, and then also being an artist and being creative about how you're speaking to your sellers, the strategies that you're using. We're going to talk a lot today about different strategies, and I emphasize and encourage all of you guys to take these strategies and make it your own. But at the end of the day, you need a system, and that's really what it comes down to. So when it comes to system, this is the 5 steps of listing and selling someone's home. So you're going to start with the pre-listing conversation. The second part is the actual presentation when you go to their home. You got them to sign the listing. The third is servicing that listing. The fourth is the offers and negotiation. And the 5 is bringing that contract to close. Again, today we're talking about these first 2 steps. How do you talk to more people to get yourself in front of more sellers? What do you say in that entire process? And then the second thing is, what do you do when you're at that listing presentation? What are the things that you can say so that you can close your listing each and every time? So, like I said, step 1 is the pre-listing conversation. So here's the question. What do you do? How do you find people who need to sell? It's really simple. You need to talk to more people. That's it. So let's not make this more complicated than it has to be. So here's my challenge for everyone on this call. I'm challenging you to call every single person that you know. So let's first take a step back and understand that people are on this earth, right, are categorized into 2 categories: the people that you know and the people that you don't. Okay, so let's start with the first category. everyone that you know, whether it's friends that you haven't spoken to, whether it's people at your children's school. Hold on, my ear pod fell out. Whether it's people at your church or any other organization that you guys are a part of, those are people that you know, and they should all know that you are in real estate, right? And so that's the first category. The second category are people that you don't know, leads, people that you're marketing to. Those are the two categories. So here's my challenge for you. So, and by the way, when I was doing this presentation, I wanted to use a name, and for some reason the name Debbie popped into my head. So I have a lot of quotes in this presentation where I say, hi, Debbie. Debbie is just the name that I'm using for a seller. So rather than say Mrs. Seller, I thought I'd use an actual name. So in this case, this is what I want you guys to do. I want you to call the people that you know, and I want you to call the leads in your name. And I want you to say, hey, Debbie, it's been so great getting to know you. Or, hey, Debbie, how's it going? I haven't spoken to you in a while. Hey, I'm working at the your listings. We have a mission. We want to close 100 listings this year. So do you know anyone anything to say? You're giving them a goal of what you're trying to do. I promise you, if you do this, people want to help, right? The human nature is to help others, especially when you ask for it. So this is different than you being on the receiving end of someone calling in and saying, I need to list my home, or a lead coming in that has a seller lead. This is about you trying to connect with more people that need to sell their home, right? And the way that you do this is you talk to more people. So this script, correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, this is a really easy thing to say to people. Hey, I'm working on a goal. This is what we're doing at my company. We want to sell 100 listings this year. Do you know anyone that I can talk to about listing their home? Right? What do you guys think? Is that, I can see most of you, is that something that you can easily say to people, whether they're in your name or whether they're just in your sphere?
I like that because it's not asking them directly. It's not saying, hi, can I buy or can I help you sell your home? It's, do you know anybody? And then they might coincidentally say, oh, actually I do. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. And you're also giving them a reason why you're doing it, right? You're asking them these questions because you're part of this company and you guys have a mission to sell more properties. And so you're putting yourself out there, but you're not putting them on the spot, right? So this counts for people in your sphere and leads that you have a good connection with. Even if they've never ever mentioned to you that they want to sell, it doesn't matter. A lot of you guys, I know, like Sherry, who's I think on this call, anyone who has had positive conversations, right? We've been using that good conversation link. Go through that link, and if you had a good conversation, call them. If they invested 10, or you invested 10, 15, 20 minutes of your time to get to know them, there's nothing wrong with calling them and saying, hey, it's been so nice getting to know you. And let me ask you a question. Do you know anybody that is looking to sell here in Florida? So you're now calling almost as a friend and is asking for a favor. You're not calling about necessarily their home search. You're calling, and because they didn't say anything about selling, you're calling to see if they have any recommendations or any ideas or people that they know, and you're asking for that, right? So these are some things that you can also say when you are trying to make some outgoing calls. So again, this is different than being on the receiving end. This is you calling your leads, or this is you talking to your friends in your sphere. What are the things that you can ask them? So these are some really easy ways to kind of transition into business. So it's seemingly casual, but you are a professional and you make money from this. So you might ask your friend or your neighbor, so how do you like living here? Whether it's wherever it might be, Boca, Delray, Fort Lauderdale, doesn't matter. So I'm going to use Boca, right? How do you like living in Boca? Are you loving your home? That will hopefully and possibly, by the way, once you ask that question, stop talking. Let them talk. Once you let them talk, from there, you can very easily transition into, well, have you ever thought about selling your home? I'm in real estate and there's no inventory right now. It's a really good time to sell, right? So again, this is a seemingly casual conversation. Maybe it's someone that you're standing next to at your kid's soccer game, or maybe you're at church, or maybe you're in line at Starbucks, or wherever it might be. How do you like living here? How do you like your home? Let them talk and then ask, well, have you ever thought about selling? And then you say, well, I'm in real estate. I have so many buyers. My buyer count is at an all-time high. Is there a price that you'd consider to sell for? Let's assume they give you a price. And then you might be able to say to them, you know what? I can get you that price. all of us know how much the market has appreciated in the past 12 months, right? And how it's going to continue to appreciate. So all of a sudden, you get someone thinking about it because, you know what, maybe they don't love their home. And maybe you can get them top dollar. And maybe it is a good idea to sell. But you won't know that or be the person to help them sell once you ask these questions. So now the last question that you want to ask them is, I totally understand that it's not a great time for you to sell, but do you know anyone that is thinking about selling? And then put that your mission, right? So I'm on a mission, right? My company, my team, we're trying to sell 100 listings in 2021. If you know anybody buying or if you know anyone selling, let me know. I want to list it for them. So these are 4 questions I recommend that you start to ask people, even if they don't ask you, right? I want you guys to start talking about selling real estate. And I want you guys to start talking about the fact that we have more buyers than ever. Rates are still really low. Properties are still going to appreciate, which means that people that own real estate, it's a very good time for them to consider to sell their home. Now, I put a little note here that says 16.6% of properties in the United States are investment properties. And the reason why I put this in here, this is a pretty good percentage, right? And what this tells me is that there are going to be people that own real estate for purely investment. And if you start this conversation, God damn it, my ears apparently don't keep my ear pods in. So if you start the conversation and start talking to them about numbers and the fact that we have an all-time high count of buyers, you might get their gears to turn a little bit. And they might tell you, you know what? I own my property as an investment, but maybe I can make some money on it. And maybe there's something else I can buy, right? I know I own real estate and I'm always looking at that. So remember to ask these 4 questions, and remember to think about, this doesn't only apply to the people that live in their homes. This also applies to people that own investment properties. So my question for you, do you want to be great, right? Do you want to be great at listing homes? If your answer to that is yes, it's really simple. The great agents talk to more people. Don't get too hung up in this. Don't start worrying about CMAs and comps. I just want you guys to talk to more people and get the conversation started about what it means to sell a home and what it means for you to sell their home. So let's assume you start making those calls, right? You call everyone in your phone, you call everyone assigned to your name in sync, and you get some people that say, yes, I'm considering selling. Okay, now what do you do? So the next step is having a pre-listing conversation, right? Your goal, the ideal scenario, is for you to show up at their home and conduct a listing presentation in their home. That is the ideal. Does that always happen? It might not. It might have to be through Zoom. It might be a conversation. They might not be in town. But the goal is to physically go to the property, right? That's step 1. So, and to physically make the appointment, whether it's going to the property or whether it's just straight up setting a Zoom appointment, that's going to be your goal. So my recommendation, if possible, right? Let's assume when you had that initial conversation, they immediately invite you over, then absolutely go right there and you can skip this step. If you haven't yet been able to confirm that appointment, that time, I recommend using this info sheet to get some information about the sellers so that you understand their situation better. And when you go to their home, you're prepared. So we have a listing info sheet that you can use to gain information from the sellers before you go. So by the way, all of these links they're all active in the presentation document. So after this call, I will send it out to everyone on the call. So what you're going to do is start with these questions and start asking. Let's assume it's a lead. Ask them, what is your ideal time to move? Where are you going to be moving? And by the way, I also recommend telling them, hey, I have about 10 or so questions that I need to ask you before we talk about selling your home together. And that way they expect a kind of a series of questions, right? What's motivating you to move? What will happen if you don't sell your home? Have you thought about how much you want to list it for? How much do you owe? The more information you can get prior to you going to the appointment, the better. So these are the list of questions of their interviewing other agents, what's most important to them. So this is a sheet that's available to you. Again, if possible, I recommend having this conversation before you actually show up for the appointment. By the way, the best way to get an appointment is to simply ask for it. When a lead or a friend or someone says to you, I'm thinking about selling, that is your cue to say, that's great. I'd love to come to your home and give you a listing presentation. What's the best time for me to do that? Ask them to get in front of them. Ask them to go to their house and make it a formal professional process, especially if it's someone in your sphere and you turn it around and shift it from a casual conversation, something that someone's mentioning to you, and then all of a sudden you're asking for it to be professional. You're kind of giving yourself the opportunity to get to the point where they do sign a contract with you. Okay. Now, once you've done that, once you've gone through those questions, now you have a little bit of a better idea. So now you know a little bit about their time frame. You know a little bit about what they want to sell their home for. You know a little bit about what they owe and other things like that. I recommend In Sync. Bridget created this template this morning, and it simply confirms the appointment. We also have one of our videos will be attached to this email template. So for those of you that are in my office, what you'll do once you enter that leads information into Sync, you will find this template, and this will simply confirm the appointment. And it'll also send them some videos where they can get kind of excited about what we do. So there are 4 different videos that we have available to you. Those 4 videos simply talk about us at Premier Listings being listing specialists. So if you're in my office and you haven't watched these videos, watch them because you might want to use them. Again, our template will automatically attach one of these videos, and it will also automatically confirm the appointment. You do need to enter your appointment schedule date and time here, and then just hit send. And now that person, whoever you just spoke to, has an email from you that has confirmed your appointment, and there's a video in there as well. The idea being to kind of impress them with our marketing expertise in a video that has been produced that talks about our listing expertise. So, tips for the pre-listing conversation, right? People are going to ask you, how much do you charge me? What can I sell my home for? What is the commission? Stuff like that. I don't want you answering those questions over the phone. Instead, your answer is, you know what, we're going to cover all of that when we meet. I look forward to seeing you, or what's the best time for me to stop by? So don't answer questions about commission over the phone. Don't answer questions about their list price over the phone. It's not the right time to do that. Your goal is to get in front of them. Why? Because when you're in front of them, that's when you have the opportunity to build rapport, to make the relationship. It's a lot harder to say no to somebody when they're standing in your living room, right? Pop quiz. What's the best way to get a listing appointment? Anyone? I think you have to unmute yourself.
Ask for it.
That's right. Ask for it. What do top producing agents have?
Friends.
They have friends. They absolutely have friends. What else do top producing agents have when it comes to their approach? That's right. They have a process, which is their science. And they're also, I think I put here, they have a process. But remember earlier in the presentation, I talked about the fact that top producing agents, they're artists and they're scientists. They have a process, but there's also an art form. Okay. Any questions before I keep going about the pre-listing process at all? Nothing? Okay. So let's go right into and talk a little bit more about what do you do now? Right now you are on your way to the listing appointment. What is your strategy? So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to adopt a yes mindset, right? So before you're going, you're imagining them signing, you are expecting the answer to be yes, you are practicing the things you want to say, you've got your kind of mental list, right? Your goal, you do not leave that appointment without a signed listing. The numbers drop. It's like a staggering drop. If you don't get them to sign right then and there, the chances are they will never sign with you. Even if they say to you, oh, well, I don't want to list until February, doesn't matter. You date it as February, you get them to sign, right? Your goal of that appointment is to get them to sign the listing agreement, period, end of conversation. So you have to have that mindset before you go into it, that they will sign that day right there. They are not waiting for the next night. They're not waiting a week. They're not waiting to talk to anybody. Whoever is involved in the process should be there. And by the way, you should confirm that. Make sure anyone who's on title or who is a decision maker needs to be at this appointment, right? The worst thing that can happen is for you to go there and you have this great conversation and you hit it out of the park with your presentation. And then they say to you at the end, oh, you know what? My husband isn't here and he needs to sign. That's like the worst thing ever, right? Before you even start your presentation, you ask them, is everyone that's involved in this process, is everybody here right now? Okay, you're at the front door. What do? First thing is you arrive early. Whatever you do not be late. The second thing is you thank them. You say, thank you so much for letting me into your home. Thank you for this opportunity. Now, there's a lot of different strategies on what you should do first, right? Do you talk business first? Do you talk about the listing agreement first, or do you tour the home first? This is where the art form comes in, because you have to kind of go with the flow. If they lead you to the kitchen table and they don't want to give you a tour of the home, then that's what you do. You go to the kitchen table. However, if it's flexible enough where they're letting you control what happens, my recommendation is to first tour the home. So you walk with them around the home, you give them compliments, you kind of make small talk and you engage. And then you go to the kitchen table, and that's when you talk about the actual contract that you're going to have them sign. But again, it's an art form. And so it depends on who you're talking to. It depends on the vibe. They might not want to let you tour the home first. They might want to go right to business, right? And if that's the case, that's okay. Now, after you tour, in the ideal scenario, or even if you're sitting right down face to face with them, either way, your first thing that you do within the first 10 minutes is you want to establish credibility. So the way that you do that is by these three things. Number one, you tell them about yourself. Number two, you tell them why you're here. And number three, you establish credibility. So what I would do is I would say, hi, I'm Jordan. I'm sitting at the table with them. So as you know, I'm Jordan. I'm the broker at Premier Listings, but I do a lot of other things other than being a broker. I'm also a trained yoga teacher. I just got a new puppy. Today, I'm here to help you sell your home. So my goal is to help you sell it quickly, to help you sell it in a way that isn't stressful. I also want you to know that in my real estate career, I've overseen thousands of listings, and I'm proud to say that my success rate is 99% with my listings, which means that I've pretty much sold them all. So that took me 60 seconds or less. And I don't know, I'm hoping that you guys have this feeling that, okay, you know a little bit about me personally. I said something about, my hobby of yoga or the fact that I have a puppy. I talked about what my goal was, and then I also gave credibility, right? And I don't know if you noticed, but when I started this presentation, the very first thing that I did was I said to you guys, this is who I am. I've overseen thousands of listings, and I'm here today to help share that information with you. So I hope you got.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay, please.
Yeah, I have a question. So if you've never had a listing before, what would you do? What would you say to establish credibility?
So what I would say to establish credibility is I would talk about my team and talk about the fact that we're listing specialists. So I'm on a team of listing specialists. We do a lot that's unique. You're going to hear more about it as I tell you more in this presentation today. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
So, and in the presentation, Anastasia, I'll get to a part where what we do is kind of spelled out, and you can kind of make that, what I just said off the cuff, we can make it better for you. But if you're brand new in real estate, you can talk about the fact that I'm on a team that has sold, thousands of listings. I'm going to go above and beyond because I'm so passionate about selling. So you can make it a little bit more personal in that case, Anastasia. Sometimes it's good that you are newer in the sense that you're more eager and you're willing to do more work than maybe someone that has, 100 listings in their name alone. They might not be giving that personal attention that you can give. So you want to spend some time, Anastasia, on answering that question of the credibility thing, and you really want to craft it whether it's a combination of who you are, what's important to you, versus the team that you're a part of, versus the things that we do in the office. Pick a couple of things, or pick one or two things that you really love to talk about, that you're really passionate about. When you are genuinely passionate about it, it comes across. So when I do these presentations, I'm hoping that you guys can feel my passion, because I know what I'm talking about. And I hope that you guys can feel that. When you guys are doing your presentations in front of the sellers, you better be passionate, because they can feel that, right? So, but I want to go back to, did you guys see what I did? Meaning when I started this class and I told you about the fact that I've overseen 3,500 listings in my experience. Does that feel different than had I just gone right into the meeting? Do I have more credibility with you because I did that?
Yes.
Okay, so I need you guys to remember that. And in the first 10 minutes of meeting with the seller, you've got to tell them a little bit about who you are. And it doesn't have to be just business. We're all humans. We can all connect, right? If they have children, talk about their children. If they have a pet and you have a pet, talk about the pet. If there's something that you can connect on, anything at all, right? Tell them about who you are. Don't shy away from being personal. Now, and then tell them why you're here. I'm here to help you with your goal of selling your home. When you do those things, these are really critical to establishing credibility and developing rapport in a way that will enable you to get what you want out of it, which is a signed listing agreement. Sure.
For those of us that have no minimal experience, especially on the seller side, on the listing side, would it be a good idea, since you're advertising yourself as a team, on the actual listing appointment to take somebody with an experienced teammate with me?
Yeah, and listen, if you're not, so a couple of parts to this, Marge. First thing is, you guys can't expect to show up at someone's house and do all of this without studying, without spending time practicing, without learning and empowering and educating yourself. So attending this class is definitely a step in that direction, but it's not like a one and done. It's not like, okay, I did Jordana's class, I'm ready to go. No, go online, go to YouTube, read about others, watch other people's listing presentations, study it, practice it, do it for your friends, do it for your family members. And even still, do it to your dog. That works too. And then yes, absolutely, or maybe find somebody in the office and have a listing presentation partner and do it with them, do it through Zoom, right? The more effort you put into perfecting this, the better your results will be. So you can't expect to do this class and then all of a sudden to next week go to a listing and kill it. It doesn't work that way. It takes a lot more effort than that. But to answer your question, Marge, even if you do those things and you're still not comfortable, would I recommend bringing somebody with you? Yes, I would. It's up to you though. You might be confident enough to do it on your own, and you might want to put yourself in that position because frankly, I think you'll do better that way. Meaning I know it's scary, but I think that when we kind of confront our fears, that's where we grow the most.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I actually think as a salesperson, even if it's a new item that I'm selling, I'm better on my own than with someone.
So then you wouldn't need to bring anyone else, right? Yeah. But I also wouldn't, because you are so new, I would spend a lot of time really making sure that I knew this, right? I would be like studying the property, the comps, all of these strategies, educating yourself, making bullet points, practicing in front of the mirror. I would go like above and beyond, especially on that first time. But I have no issue at all with you going on your own.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So even I think Marge, with maybe where you're concerned about is the credibility part, I would just use the brokerage as your leverage instead of you presenting like, oh, I have never sold a listing, but I don't even have a conversation like that. If they just say how many listings you sold, well, my office, on average closes, this many listings a month. We have top agents with us. We're part of a team, kind of sell the brokerage as opposed to, your experience, sell the brokerage experience as opposed to yourself. I think if you're looking for the credibility part.
And honestly, you guys, just pick one or two stats and just have them memorized. So you could say something like, well, right now we're on track to list and sell 100 homes this year. Or you can say, I know, like when we get to our listing presentation, I think we have something like 47 positive reviews, but that was also from 2019. It might be even higher. So you could say something like, well, our office has, you know, I don't know, 57 positive reviews on Zillow because we've had such a good success. I'm making it up, right? It doesn't really matter. We do have data. Find the data, position it in a way that makes you sound good, and do not get stuck on that, on you, on Anastasia or Marge or anyone else on this call. Do not get stuck on that, right? That's just because you haven't sold it at listing before, it does not mean you can't do it. You can absolutely do it, 1,000,000%. I know you can do it. I have faith. I have complete confidence in you, and you guys need to have that confidence too. So please don't get hung.
I have faith.
Yes. So don't get hung up on it.
I don't give a shit. Pardon my language. I'm doing this.
That's right. That's right. And that's why having a goal and being part of a team like ours can be so helpful, because you can talk about the team's production. You can talk about the team's goals. You can talk about what we do. But we're going to get there. And again, remember, this is you establishing credibility. This is legitimately, it's 2 minutes. This is not you answering hundreds of questions about who we are. That's not what this is. This is just like, hey, Roni, thank you so much for letting me come into your home today. I'm so excited to be here. The reason why I'm here today is to talk about how I'm going to help you list and sell your home. I'm part of a strong team. This is what I love to do. I'm super passionate about it. Let's get started. That's all it is. That's it. But again, the credibility is a combination of you telling them about who yourself, telling them why you're there, and you're doing it all within a really short period of time. Ideally, you guys, you're doing this in the first 10 minutes that you're there. And this is why I said it's an art. It's not going to happen the same every time. It's just not. Every single home that you go to is going to be different. Some homes are going to be lots going on. The kids are running around. Other homes are going to be really quiet. Maybe there's no furniture there because no one lives there. There's 1,000 different variables. So I need you guys to understand and become an artist, right? Don't get too hung up and, oh no, what do I do now because I went off the process. Yes, it's the process, but it's also an art, okay? And so either way, your goal in the first 10 minutes is to establish credibility, even with Zoom. So Roni and I, a while ago, did a Zoom listing presentation together. And we did the entire presentation that I'm going to show you guys in a second. But before we started that, we talked about who we are. The guy was from the New York area, which is where I'm from. And I said, oh, yeah, I'm from New Jersey. And we talked about that. And I established, and I'm the broker of the company, and I'm here today to talk about how Roni's going to sell your home and how, as the brokerage, we're going to back him up. And guess what? We got the listing, right, Roni? That's right. Okay. I'm going to keep, any other questions on this before I keep going? Okay. All right. So step one, establishing credibility. Oopsies, I skipped a step. Step two. Okay. So now you're sitting at the table, right? Whether it happened because you already toured their home or whether they sat you right at the table, it doesn't matter. I recommend using a presentation. I use a presentation, and I can speak pretty well off the cuff, but I use a presentation because there's a lot that we want to talk about, and there's no way that it's not comfortable for me to just talk and go through all these things without having something to guide me, right? And so if you don't have a laptop, borrow one. If you don't have an iPad or some sort of tablet, get yourself one, because you need to have something digital with you as you're guiding them through it. I recommend this because I just think it's the slam dunk. Most listing agents are going to show up at these people's homes and they're just going to talk. But what I'm trying to get you guys to do is be professional about it, be meticulous about it, because guess what? This home most likely is this person's biggest asset, right? They care a lot about it. You need to treat it and be as professional as possible. And this presentation forces you to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't click through and go really quick. You can, or you can go really slow. I hope you guys had a chance to review this presentation. Or you guys tell me, right? It's already been 37 minutes. I don't want to spend too much time clicking through this because it's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm not gonna go through every single slide. I'm gonna quickly click through it because there's a lot of other things I want to get to, and we only have about 20 minutes left. I will do a separate video, post it on PLU, where I will take time going through this presentation as if I was talking to a seller. But I want to give you guys just a general feel and vibe of how this will work. So I am now sitting with Debbie, my seller. We've toured her home. We are sitting at her kitchen table. I've established my credibility, and I said to Debbie, okay, Debbie, let me tell you a little bit more about how what we do is a little bit unique. I'm going to walk you through our presentation. So all you do is click. When you click, it tells you exactly what to say. So Debbie, as I've already explained, we're listing specialists. Okay, I'm clicking through. So the overview for today's presentation, and my goal is to ask you the important questions, answer those questions, and then solve your real estate needs. Now, the overview of what we're going to do today in this presentation are these 5 things. We're going to talk about the fact that we're listing specialists. We're talking about your presentation, your promotion, the price, and the paperwork. And as you can see, you guys, I'm just reading. So my recommendation, just read through. Okay, so the first thing, Debbie, is presentation. How your home looks to a buyer in person, to a buyer online, and to other realtors. Because your home is now a product for sale. So we're going to work together and make sure that your home is presented at its best. So we use professional photography because, as you can see by the stats, it's the best way to sell your home. We'll make sure your home is staged well. And again, depending on the person, like when Roni and I did this for Michael, I think it was Michael Goldberg, he would ask questions as we went, and he was really interested in it. It took a little bit of, it took some time. Some of your sellers, they won't ask a thing, and you'll just be able to click through. Hold on, let me see what's happening in the chat. Oh, okay, cool. So as you guys know, this is something that makes us unique, right? Every agent at Premier Listings has access to our pond. At the time that I did this presentation, there were about 22,000 people in the pond. Now we have what? Anyone know? 28,000, I think.
We have a little over 29,000.
Okay, so I'll update this soon because that's a much bigger number. But what we do in this situation is we're showing the seller, Debbie, what I'm going to do for you that's really unique that no other agent's going to do is I'm going to take your property and I'm going to reverse market it. What that means is of the 29,000 leads that have registered in our system in the past 6 years, which is how long we've been marketing and getting leads, and I'm going to make outgoing calls. I'm going to email them and try to tell those people about your home. I'm not just going to sit back and wait for someone to call me. And by the way, again, all of this is spelled out for you. So you could just read this. So as you can see, Debbie, we're going to plug your property into the database. It's going to tell us, as this right here, this little box shows you the buyer matches. The match score means that this individual, so in this case, Ellen Dreskin, has 100% match of your listing, right? And when I call Ellen, it's a great opportunity for me to put the property in front of her. So again, I'm just clicking through the presentation. So in addition to the fact that we reverse market your property, we also have a digital marketing strategy. So what that means is every single listing that we list, remember I told you we're listing specialists, every single listing gets its own website. It looks just like this. And the website, by the way, as you can see, it has maps of the area, it has the local schools, it has photos, it's got a lot of information for you. You also will get landing pages. A landing page is basically a one-page website where we are trying to gather people's information and attract more buyers to your home. The more buyers that see it, the better. This is that landing page that I told you about. We also will strategically target people on our social media. We will run ads for you. This is our Instagram account, our YouTube account. This is a sample of how we can create an audience that is targeted to your property, so we can get your home to show up in people's feed. In addition to all those things that we do that makes your home unique, we also have this 21-point marketing plan. So this is a process, Debbie. I know you think it's easy, but it's not. So this is our 21-point marketing plan. So we just covered promotion. Now we're going to talk a little bit about who we are. We are a successful team. This is a quote from Brad Inman, who's a big respected individual in the real estate industry. And he talks about the fact that one person cannot do it alone. It takes a team, right? And that's part of why we're so successful at Premier Listings. We have a 5-star response time. We have high values. These are the results that count. These are all of our positive reviews. Price. So it's really important that you price your home, Debbie. You price it right the first time, right? If we price it too, as you can see on this pyramid, right? If you price it too high, so as you can see, if you price it 15% over market value, you're only going to get 10% of buyers, right? If you price it low, you're actually going to get more buyers, but market value is really the nice sweet spot of getting the most amount of people looking at your home, right? That's our goal for you. So this is a great time. This is exactly when I would actually take my CMA out and talk about price. So again, understand it's very possible that when I sit at the kitchen table, Debbie's going to look right at me and Debbie's going to say, Jordana, just tell me what you're listing it for. And I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to say, Debbie, I promise you, we will talk about that. Let me just give you a rundown of some of the things that I do first and some of the ways that my team is unique. So clearly this woman is, in this example, she's kind of pushing me along, in which case I might click through a little bit faster, right? I might not touch on every single point, but I'm still impressing her. And even if it's subconsciously, I'm telling her all of the things that I do, right? I hope you guys feel how impressive it looks when you summarize all of our work, right? People are very quick to think that we don't do that much for it, but we all know how much work goes into this. And it's critical that we explain that. So in this case, I now got to the part on price. At this point in the presentation, I'm going to actually take out my CMA. I do recommend either you do a CMA in the MLS, and it's a super easy format to follow, or you can simply show up with 3 closed sales and 3 active sales, and then an idea of what you want to, what your suggested list price is. And I always give a range. I don't want you giving a number. What happens with that number is people get stuck on it. So let's pretend you say your suggested list price is $500,000. But guess what? The person that was there an hour before you maybe said, oh, well, you can list it anywhere from 5 to 525. Guess what number the seller remembers? The seller remembers 525, and they will call that other agent because that other agent said a higher number. So give them a range of value. So let me show you an example. If you haven't seen a CMA, this is a sample of one. Does everyone know how to do CMAs? If not, take a CMA class at the MLS. This one that I'm about to show you is from, I did this using Flex. It's just a wizard that you walk through and you enter the 3 most comparable closed properties and the 3 most comparable active properties. So in this particular CMA that I did, these are the 3 actives and the 2 closed comps. I'm not going to do what I would do with the sellers. I'm quickly going through this with you. Depending on your seller and what information they need from you, they might stop you and they might make you go through this with a fine-tooth comb. You might spend a couple of hours there answering questions. So be prepared for that. And you need to know these comps inside and out. I even recommend visiting them. Depending on the property and how tough of a seller it is or what the price point is, you might want to actually set up showings for the other active homes. How impressive would that be? If Debbie says to me, oh, well, Jordana, I know my neighbor has his home listed and his home is listed for way higher than mine. And then what if I could say to Debbie, well, guess what, Debbie, I actually visited that home this morning. And part of why they have it listed higher than yours is because they have a lake view and they have a pool. You don't have a lake view and you don't have a pool. And by the way, their home is pristine. I was there this morning. It looks like it was never lived in. So I just gave that seller reasons why that higher list price isn't necessarily the right list price for them. And I impressed her because I went to that other property and I visited the active home, the other available listing, right? So again, depending on the price of the home, depending how badly you want it, depending on the seller and how tough they're going to be, I recommend go above and beyond and visit the active listings, the comparable homes, so that way you can talk about it. You can say, I went to every other home that's on the market right now. Your home is way nicer. And because of that, we're going to be the top listed in this community. I'm going to sell it for you. How cool is that, right? So anyway, back to my CMA. These are the 3 actives. These are the 2 closed. I give a quick analysis. And the best part about it is that it gives you right here, right? This is not me. This is Flex. This is the low suggested price of 1.9. Let me zoom in a little bit. This is the high list price of 1,475, and this is the recommended of 1,425. By the way, this was an actual listing that I took. The sellers wanted to list their home at 1.6. The sellers were completely unrealistic. I recommended 1,425 with a high list price of 1,475, and guess what? I left there and I listed it for 1,499. Guess what it sold for? 1,45. So it sold where I recommended. I was right. And I got them down $100,000 because you can't argue with this. You can't argue with the facts of the CMA that I just presented. So remember, from a process standpoint, you guys were at the price section and you stopped and you went right to the CMA, right to the facts. And this is how you get to your price, okay? You can actually keep going if you want, depending on how it's going with them. But you might say, okay, now that we've agreed, Debbie and I have agreed, we are going to list her home at 1,475. We went through the comps. Cool. Let me take out the paperwork. And at this step, you actually take out the paperwork. You take out the listing agreement. There's a sample of it here. Again, everyone in Premier Listings, all of these links are available to you. So this is one that I filled out as a sample. What you're going to do, you're going to show up at the listing with almost everything filled out except for line 22. Line 22 is the price. Hold on, let me see if I can get my pointer so I can point it out to you. Let's annotate. That's not what I want, is it? Okay, forget it. I don't know how to do it. But where it says price right here, if you guys can see my little mouse, I say, okay, Debbie, we agreed on 1,475 as your listing price, and I write it in, and then guess what? Every single page requires your initial. It does not have to be the broker. Sometimes people think that the broker has to sign these. They don't. You as the agent, take out a pen, you initial. You say page 1, initial. Page 2, initial. Page 3, initial. Page 4, initial. And then you hand it to them to initial. Because you're not leaving unless this is signed. You are handing them a pen, putting the paper in front of them and saying sign, right? Okay, we have 2 choices here. I don't have a lot of time left. I can either go through this listing agreement or I can talk about obstacles.
Obstacles.
Okay, so they're about to sign the listing, but they have some questions. So let's talk about those questions, those obstacles, right? Let's talk about that. Okay. I'm gonna, before I get to obstacles, I'm gonna talk about a couple other things. Okay, first off, I wanted to show you this screenshot. There's a top agent in California who lists about 200 homes herself every single year. And I watched some of her presentations. I did a lot of research, by the way, before I put this class together. I researched other people's strategies. I found what I thought was most effective, and I put that together for you here. What this is, and this is a photo of what she uses before she goes to every single listing she practices. And what she does is, and I recommend that you guys do this, she gets, 10 index cards. And on those index cards, she writes all of these things. 3 minutes about me, comps, marketing, questions, rapport, staging, showings, testimonials, buyer profile, marketing. She puts them all around and she chooses one and she practices that one card. So she may put them all on the ground, face down. She picks one up and it's comps. She then tests herself. Do I know the comps? Then she does it again. Okay, rapport. How am I going to build rapport? What do I know about these sellers? What can I use about them? Do they have kids? Can I talk about their children? Can I talk about their love of fishing? It doesn't really matter. How can I build rapport? She puts it back, takes another index card, Let me practice 3 minutes about me. So she, even though she lists 200 homes consistently for years, she still does this every single time she lists a home. If you guys think that you're going to close your listings without practicing, I'm telling you right now, you are wrong. You are not going to get listings. You might get one, you might get lucky, but is your conversion rate going to be 98 or 99%? Probably not. It might be, I don't know, 15% or 20%. If you spend time studying this, like go back, and a lot of you guys are recently licensed. Think about all of the time that you spent studying for your license. Stupid information that doesn't necessarily apply. None of that is making you any money. This shit right here, this is going to make you money. These index cards. If you are going to a listing presentation for $1 million home, that's upwards of, that's 20, 30, that's as much money as people make in an entire year. In an entire year. And you get the opportunity to make that money in one go, you better practice. So these index cards are a fantastic way to test yourself and make sure that you're ready to answer questions on the go. Because yes, like I said, you want to try and follow that science, that process, but it's also an art. So if somebody interrupts you and as you're walking through the home and they start to ask you questions, well, you know what, Jordana, before we go any further, tell me a little bit about you. If I practice using these index cards, I promise you I'm going to be able to answer the question about the 3 minutes about me. Or let's assume we got interrupted in some way. You know, maybe their teenager walked into the room and the teenager walks out and the seller looks to me and my flow has been completely interrupted. And the seller looks at me and the seller says, you know, Jordana, before I even let you go any further, what do you think about this home? What do you recommend that I do to stage this home better? You better have an answer for that. And that's part of why these index cards are going to be so helpful for you to practice and understand how to make this an art form, because that's really what it is. Okay, back to obstacles. Oh, I have some other good strategies before I go to the obstacles. A couple of other tips that I recommend for when you show up at that listing appointment. I want you guys, I know this is crazy, but it works. I want you to open with the close. I'm going to give you an example of opening with a close. So Debbie opens the door. Hey, Debbie, how are you? I'm Jordana. It's so nice to meet you and actually see you face to face. So what do you think? Should we sign a listing agreement right now? And I know that's entirely insane, but that's going to give me a lot of information. How she reacts to that is going to tell me. She might say, whoa, or she might say, okay. And that will give me an idea of what I'm up against. Or maybe you say, hey, Debbie, it's so nice to finally meet you. I cannot wait to get to work to sell your home. So what you're doing is you're literally, the very first thing out of your mouth is some version of an affirmation of a closing statement. It's going to feel awkward, but it freaking works, man. It totally works. I want you guys to develop at least 5 different closing statements that you can say when you open the door, when they open the door for you. So Anastasia, the next listing appointment that you go on, you shake their hand and you say, this home is gorgeous. I cannot wait for it to show up on my Zillow list of recently sold homes.
It's on Sunday, so I'm going to be practicing a lot.
What did you say? I missed that. What did you say, Anastasia?
I have one on Sunday, so I'm definitely going to be practicing this a lot. It's a lot of information.
Yeah. So, but do you think is that something that you think you can use?
Yeah, no, absolutely. 5 of them, I will come up with that. Yes, correct.
Yeah. And come up with something that's comfortable for you. It's so important to me that all of us are authentic in how we're presenting. You know, I want you to really perfect your own art of presenting, because that's really what we're doing. So if there's something that I said that doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. Find something that you like that is natural and comfortable for you. But the idea is, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. So if you're nervous, Anastasia, before you knock on the door, good. That's okay.
The funny thing is, it actually sounds like Anastasia. Should we just sign the listing agreement right now? Or
oh my God, you're so right, Lonnie. It totally does.
Right?
Yeah.
It totally sounds like her.
It so sounds like you. And you know what? Go for it, Anastasia. And then you know what? I want to hear about it. I want you to go on Sunday to that listing presentation. I want you to shake their hand and start with the close. And I want you to come back and let us all know if it worked.
You got it.
Cool. Okay. A couple other tips to do while you're there. I want you guys to build a close rapport. This is honestly something that's a little bit hard for me because my rate of speech is pretty fast and I have a really hard time slowing down. Part of why I'm now a broker because I can't slow down that much. And when you go and you are working with somebody who maybe has a slower rate of speech, or maybe they speak very quietly, I want you guys to match that. Okay, so work on and think about those things. Think about their body language. Think about what can you do to connect more. These are all things that you're doing at the same time as you're doing everything else. There's a lot happening. The third thing, I didn't spend any time talking about this, but I promise you, if you go to YouTube, if you buy books, if you pay for other classes other than this, you are going to hear other coaches talk about something called the DISC. The DISC is a personality evaluation that tells us if somebody is a driver or if they're, it talks about who they are. And the reason why this is important is because this will help you understand what's happening in the interaction. Again, I'm not going to talk about this today. I can do a separate class on it if you want, but just pay attention to their personality and are there things that you think you can do that are going to be effective. So let's say, for example, you sit down at the table and the person starts like looking around. So you're trying to do your presentation and they're like all over the place. I don't want you to get offended or insulted. I want you to understand that that is their personality. Think about somebody else in your life that maybe does that, and think about what can you do to bring them back in, right? Don't take offense to it. Keep going, keep doing you, but understand something about their personality and see if you can address it directly. The last tip I have for you is I want you to show them. I don't want you to tell them. What that means is, and that's part of why I encourage you to use the Prezi listing presentation. That is showing them our buyer database. So think about if you didn't use the listing presentation and you show up and you sit down at the kitchen table and you say to them, Debbie, I'm so excited. We have a database of buyers and I'm gonna take your property and I'm gonna reverse market it and I'm gonna give you a website too. Okay, you ready to sign? So is that more effective or is it more effective if I actually show her a website? If I actually show her the buyer database? You guys all have access to all the ponds. Anastasia, for example, why not open up Sync right there in front of her and say, look at all these buyers. See how this listing presentation, this is a live version of this. And this actually shows you 22,000 people. We've got more than that now. Show them. Don't tell them. If you want to do print marketing, take a piece of print marketing, whether you use one of ours or you do your own, the more you can show people, the more you're going to establish credibility. If you're concerned about that, Anastasia, show them. Show them a website example. If you need it, let us know. Courtney, Bridget, I think it's Courtney still does our websites for our listings. If you need an example of somebody else's property, or better yet, we can create your property website and the landing pages before you even go. So what I want you to do, Anastasia, or anyone else on this call, before your next listing appointment, ask Courtney or Bridget and say, this is my property address. Here's 2 pictures, build me a website. It will take us 10 seconds to pop your property address into it. And then you show up the day of the listing appointment and their address is 123 Banana Street. And you say, hey, look at this listing, 123 Banana Street thebestlisting.com. I already have it up for you. That shows you a little bit about how I am going to go above and beyond. And let's pretend, Anastasia, for a second, that someone gives you a hard time. And they say, well, Anastasia, have you listed any other homes before personally? I know your team has done work, but what about you? And I know that you're insecure about that, and I don't want you to be. And your answer is, you know what? I have spent so much time studying this, and I'm going to put so much work into it. Look at this website I built for you. And you're going to completely redirect that question. So it's not going to matter that you personally have never sold a listing in that community. It's not going to matter.
Be a politician.
Yeah, be a politician, absolutely. Okay. Let's talk about some obstacles. How are we doing on time? Does anyone have any questions before I keep talking about obstacles? I see there's a chat thing happening. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions or anything I've spoken about before I get to the obstacle section? Nope. Okay. So what do you do when you have an unrealistic seller? Okay, I'm actually not, don't even look at this. Everyone in my office, and if you're not in my office and you want access to this stuff, let us know. I have some really good ways that you can overcome objection. So I'm going to start with the objection. This is a big one, right? The seller wants to reduce your commission. So this is what they're going to say to you. They're going to say, Jordana, another agent is going to make their commission 4%. Can you also do 4%? So I'm going to say, well, let me ask you a question, Debbie. What's more important to you? What you're going to pay in commissions or what you put in your pocket, what you walk away with? So whenever the first thing I want you to say when someone says, Marge, will you take 4%? Melissa, will you take 4%? You say, before I answer that question, let me ask you, Mr. Seller, what's more important to you, what you're paying in commissions or what you walk away with? And then hopefully they're going to say, well, what I walk away with. And then you say, okay, so then one more question. When you got the offer of 4%, did you have to fight for it or was it handed to you? And they probably will say, well, no, that was the offer. And you say, well, unfortunately, that's what I was afraid of, because if they're that quick to give away their own money, imagine how quick they are going to be to give away your money. I'm going to be firm on your list price, just like I'm firm about my commission. Is that a good response? Now, the other thing you can say, so that's one way of saying it. You can keep, I've got more, I can keep going. You can also say things like, listen, I'm an above average agent. I'm an above average person, okay? And it's important that I tell you the truth. And the truth is that when sellers list with me, they get more money because I have high standards and I will not list for less than average. You can also even say, listen, I know you understand business, so let's talk business for a second. As I explained a minute ago, I charge 3%. I recommend that you pay 3% out, total of 6%. For the 3% that I charge, about 1% goes to my general expenses and my broker, another 1% goes to taxes, 1% goes to marketing expenses. So where does that leave me? If someone's charging you 4% and 2% goes to the other side and they keep 2%, they're not making any money, but they're also not spending any money on you. Do you want an agent who's not willing to spend any money on you and on your property to market it correctly? Okay, so that's what I say when somebody tries to reduce the commission. What do I say when someone is unrealistic? So this is a big one. People will say, you know what, Melissa, I just want to test the market. And I know it's super hot right now. Everyone's talking about how there's no inventory. I want to list high because maybe there's a buyer stupid enough to pay, really high. So then what you're going to say is you're going to say, okay, well, I just want to make sure I understand. You're trying to test the market or you're trying to sell your house, right? Like, so you can kind of ask them a question in response. What is it that you're trying to do? I just want to make sure I understand your goals. Are you throwing the property up there with a pie in the sky hope or a wish, or are you really want to sell? Because it's okay if you have a pie in the sky number. I'll do that for you. And I'll do the best I can. Or do you really want to sell? And if they say, well, I really want to sell, but I want to list and sell high, right? So what you tell them is that it seems like a good idea, but that's not how the market works, right? When a property is first listed, all of the people looking in that price range will come and see the home. And they're going to compare that list price to the other comparable homes. And if that price is too high, they're not even going to bother making an offer. They're going to walk away like this. And what's going to happen if they walk away is you just now lost an entire buyer pool because you listed your home too high. So let me give you a real world example. So imagine I list a home. I had a home that we flipped in Nautica Isles. We listed it for, the comps were all like $350, and we listed it for $359, right on the money, right? Now, what happened with that property? Within, I don't know, like 5 hours, I had a ton of showings. And within 24 hours, I had an offer. and I had an offer for $365. I listed it at $359. Now let's pretend I listed it at $399 instead of $359. What would have happened? I would have got the same amount of showings, and those buyers would have said, this seller is unrealistic. And the other agents that are working with that buyer would have said, you know what? This home, it's listed way too high. Let's just go make an offer on something else. So if the seller insists on listing high, give them those examples. Explain to them that what they're doing is they're going to rule out an entire buyer pool, people that will go and look at the home and then determine, based on other homes in that price point, that one is not high and that seller is not realistic. So the seller says, you know what? I still want to list high and I want to reduce it in 2 weeks. Again, you're going to put pushback in and say, we could do that, but you're going to miss out because the buyers that are available right now that need to get in the next 2 weeks are going to be gone. Oh, this is a good one. You can also give them an example and ask them. Again, it's good to pose the question back to them. So when somebody presents you with an obstacle, ask the question back. So someone might say to me, okay, Jordana, I want to list a home at $399, not at $359. I'm going to say, okay, Debbie. Debbie's my seller, right? Has there ever been a time when you walked into a store, you looked at a price tag and you thought, that's too high, and you walked away? That's exactly what's going to happen with your home. There is no point in listing this property too high. It's not going to get you what you want. People are going to immediately reject it instead of giving it a chance. Okay, what other obstacles are there? Okay, those are the two obstacles that I think are the most common. I'm a little bit over time. Here's another thing. I want to talk a little bit more about the unrealistic seller for a second. Something else that you can tell the seller is that you can't control the market. The market dictates price, not you. What you can control is how available you are for showings, how you market the home, how you speak about the home, how you sell the home. If you show the home in the best light, those are the things that you can do. What you cannot do is dictate the price. The market does that. Let's pretend I got a buyer to pay $399. The market wouldn't have allowed it because the property most likely in that price point would have gotten, the buyer's getting a loan and no lender will lend for $399 and a home worth $359. So if the person is still adamant, I recommend talking about the market. Your answer is, it's not me. I'm not the one telling you that you can't get, $399 for your home, but I am telling you the market won't give you $399. So that kind of shifts the onus from you, the agent, to the market. It's not your fault, right? And don't be afraid to be honest. If you just say yes and you just yes them to death, you're going to get an overpriced listing and an unhappy seller. Okay. Let me stop my screen share. So that's actually the end of the first part of the listing presentation, of the listing class, sorry, where we talked about the listing presentation and the listing process. The next class I'll do will be a focus on what do you do to sell it, and then how you take it to closing. Does anybody have any questions about anything at all that I talked about?
I'm very impressed with the presentation. I learned so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That means a lot. That means a lot. I would love questions though. Somebody ask me a question.
I have one. So what if somebody wants to wait to list until they put impact windows, but when looking at the comps, it doesn't, the price doesn't really change that much, but they think it will. How do you overcome that objection?
So that's a good one. And the answer to that, just like other objections that you might get, my recommendation is to show them facts, Anastasia. So bring an actual, a closed listing with you and point out that there are show them photos or anything that you can do to prove that there are no impact windows and show them the price. Versus, and then best case scenario, I don't know if you have it, but if you have two homes that both closed, one with impact windows and one without, and the home sold at a similar price, bring them that. because no one can argue with that, right?
Great, thank you.
Are there comps that support that, what I just said?
Yes, there's just no active comps because it's in a community. There's only closed comps and pending. So to do the CMA, I know with the pending, I don't know if it's going to go back on the market or if
So, okay, so a couple of things I do that I recommend that you can also do if there are no, so what you're saying, there are closed comps but no active? Because that's better. You want closed.
Yeah, there's closed and pending, but no active comps for the CMA.
That's totally fine. You don't need active comps. Active comps are stupid if you ask me. I mean, they're not stupid, but so active comps are good in the sense that it shows you your competition, but they're not good because what happens is people can list homes for whatever they want. They can put any number on it. So don't get too hung up in that. When the home is pending, you can call the agent and ask them,
Okay.
does the home have impact windows? Or was that important to the buyers? The other thing that I recommend that you do, I recommend that you suggest to the seller to put the property in the MLS as active, and in the description, you can say, seller is willing to put impact windows in, please contact listing agent to discuss. So that way you're still marketing that as a benefit, because it sounds to me like your seller thinks that impact windows are the end all be all. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. So, okay, so I want to tell you something. On that home that I showed you the CMA, that couple is from England, and they have no experience with Florida hurricanes. And the end all be all to them was the fact that they had a generator, because they thought that that's all anybody cares about. But we all know that's not, right? Generators are nice, but does it add value? Absolutely not. Part of why they wanted to list their home at 1.6 instead of 1.49 is because of the stupid generator. And I had to explain to him that there's no value to that. So it's a tough conversation to have, Anastasia. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I am saying if you bring facts with you, if you show them comps and point it out, but then you also still address I still made them feel like when we went to look at homes, I always pointed out if there was a generator. So when they were buying, I made it like because I knew that they cared about it. It was like emotional for them. They wanted to make sure if power went out that they still had air conditioning, right? That was important to them, which is totally fine. I addressed it on their purchase. And so what you can do is you can, if they still insist on it, you can say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer and seller, I don't want to lose this. It's such a great time right now to sell, and I don't want to lose valuable marketing time. Why don't we do this? Let's compromise. Let's list your home, and I will put in the description, and I will talk to every single agent that calls me, and I will let them know that you are open to putting in impact windows, and if so, the price will increase accordingly.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, cool.
I have a question. How many homes should you include in the comps to compare?
So usually a CMA has 3 active or pendings. So it could be 3 pendings, or it could be 1 active, 2 pendings. So 3 on the active pending category, and then 3 on the closed category. So 6 total. Any other questions?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just had a listing, and the house was filthy dirty. How do you approach that?
So the way that you approach that, you know what? I missed something. I just realized in my listing presentation, there is a link. I'll send it to you guys, and there is a link that you can go through, Katya, when you're with the seller, and there are questions and there are suggestions for what the seller should do. So you can actually hand them a piece of paper. So it's not you saying, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, your house is dirty. You're going to hand them a piece of paper that says, these are 5 things you want to do. On that list, it's like number 1, declutter. Number 2, have it professionally cleaned. Number 3, put away any personal items. If they have photos of their family, they should take it down. So what you're going to do, Katya, is you're going to say something along the lines of, let's make this home market ready, because remember, in the listing presentation, we talked about the fact that your home is now a product for sale, and that includes getting it as clean as possible, taking away your personal items, and decluttering it. By the way, I think Courtney, I don't know if she's on the line still, but was it Courtney? Maybe it was somebody else. Somebody recently, I think it was Courtney, she got told her seller to go out and buy white towels from Walmart, buy some fake plants at Home Goods, and use that to help the home appear better in showings. And let me tell you, the home looks fantastic. As an agent, if you guys are going out after lots of listings, you might want to invest in a clean set of towels or a couple of fake houseplants that you can use to pop into properties to brighten them up a little bit. That's absolutely part of your job. In our listing presentation, I showed you there was one section where it showed a staged home versus a not staged home. And it was as simple as making the bed, right? Turning on the lights, putting away the dirty clothes. So it's your job, Katya, to walk your seller through the things that they need to do to make their property market ready. If it's hard for you to have that conversation, make it easier for yourself by printing it out and handing them a piece of paper that says, these are the 5 things that I recommend to all of my sellers. So it's not you, it's the company, it's the piece of paper telling them to do it.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I totally went over. I want to thank everyone for their time. I'm going to send everyone on this call a link to the actual presentation. I will schedule another follow-up that will focus more on what do you do once it's listed. But right now we're talking about the beginning part, again, which is getting you guys more listings and then closing that listing and getting listing agreements signed. Cool? Thank you guys.